Today, we're jumping into the unforgettable story of Auggie Pullman from R.J. Palacio's novel Wonder. It's a journey that really makes you think about a simple but huge question. In a world that can judge you in a heartbeat, what does it actually mean to be kind?
And this quote, it gets right to the heart of everything. You see, for our main character, August, this isn't just some casual wish. It's the core struggle of his entire life. He doesn't want to be special or different. He just wants to fit in.
So, let's meet our hero. In a lot of ways, 10-year-old August, or Auggie, is just a regular kid. He's funny, he's super smart, and he's totally obsessed with Star Wars. The one big difference? He's been homeschooled his whole life. And the reason for that is, well, it's complicated.
See, Auggie was born with a severe craniofacial anomaly. Basically, it's a mix of a few really rare genetic conditions that affect how his face is formed. He's had dozens of surgeries since he was a baby, just to help him do basic things like breathe, and see, and hear. He even calls himself a medical wonder. But the reality is, before anyone gets to know the awesome kid on the inside, the first thing they see is his face.
And this is the moment where everything changes. After years of protecting him at home, Augie's parents decide it's finally time for him to go to a real school. Now, for Auggie, this isn't just about starting 5th grade. It feels more like launching into outer space without a helmet.
And that first day is just as overwhelming as you'd imagine. All of a sudden, he's swimming in a sea of new faces, and every single one of those faces is staring right back at him. He actually calls this chapter in his life Lamb to the Slaughter, and, yeah, that's exactly how it feels.
But luckily, in this scary new world, he gets a kind of guide. His English teacher, a guy named Mr. Brown, introduces the whole class to this idea of a precept. A precept is basically just a rule to live by, a rule about the really important things. And these precepts, they become like moral signposts for everyone all year long.
In this very first one, choose kind. It pretty much becomes the moral compass for the entire story. It's a challenge that every single character, from Auggie to all of his classmates, is going to have to face.
And right away, a few kids actually do choose kind. Even with all the stares, Auggie makes 2 real friends. Jack Will, who's a pretty funny, down-to-earth kid, and Summer. And Summer does this small but incredibly powerful thing. She just sits with him at lunch on the first day. Not because a teacher told her to, but just because she wanted to.
But kindness, as we all know, isn't universal. Auggie quickly finds out that middle school has its own set of really cruel rules, and he's at the center of the absolute worst one.
They call it the plague. It's this unspoken, awful game where if anybody touches Auggie, even by accident, they have 30 seconds to run and wash their hands or they'll get it. It's just this constant, brutal reminder of how isolated he is.
Which brings us to Halloween. This is Augie's absolute favorite day of the year. Why? Because for once, he can wear a mask and just disappear. He can walk down the hall and feel totally normal, completely anonymous.
But on this one day where he feels safe, he overhears a conversation that completely shatters him. A kid in a Darth Sidious mask is talking about him, saying some of the cruelest things you can possibly imagine. And then another kid asks the one question that just cuts through all of it. If you think he's so terrible, then why do you hang out with him so much? And the answer? Oh, the answer is just a complete and total betrayal.
Because under that mask, Auggie recognizes the voice. It's his best friend, Jack Will. This is rock bottom. This is the absolute lowest point in Augie's entire journey. He goes home, feeling sick to his stomach, and he decides he is never, ever going back to that school.
So, that moment of betrayal, it sets off this huge chain reaction. The fallout from Halloween is immediate, and it is intense. Once Jack figures out what he did and eventually apologizes, the whole social landscape of the 5th grade just explodes into what the kids start calling a war.
Suddenly, the entire grade is just split right down the middle. On one side, you have Jack, Auggie, and Summer. And on the other, you have the popular kid, Julian, who's turned most of the other boys against Jack for, daring to be friends with Auggie. It is all-out social warfare.
But true friendship, it wins out. With a little help from Summer, Jack and Auggie finally talk it out. Jack explains the pressure he felt and gives a real, sincere apology. And from that moment on, their bond is even stronger. because now it's built on honesty and forgiveness.
So the school year goes on, and the ultimate test, the final ordeal, it all comes during the annual 5th grade nature retreat, an overnight trip that Auggie is both super excited and completely terrified for.
So late one night, out in the woods, things get really scary. Auggie and Jack get cornered by a bunch of older kids from another school. They're being hostile, they're violent, and they're singling out Auggie, making fun of him. But just as things are about to get really bad, the most amazing thing happens. Amos, Henry, and Miles, the very kids who were on Julian's side of the war, they show up out of nowhere and jump in to defend Auggie and Jack.
Now, in the middle of all that chaos, Auggie's brand new hearing aids get ripped off and lost in the dark. But honestly, that physical loss is nothing compared to what he gains in that moment. Total, unconditional acceptance from his classmates.
And this is just such a powerful scene. As Auggie walks back to the campsite, he's not an outcast anymore. He's literally surrounded by the boys who used to avoid him. For the first time, he feels like he has his own Emperor's Guard.
That night in the woods changes absolutely everything. When Auggie gets back to school, he's not the kid with the face anymore. He's just Auggie. And the whole story really comes together at the end-of-year graduation ceremony.
During his speech, the principal, Mr. Tushman, brings it all full circle, right back to that first precept. He says it's not enough to just be kind. We should be kinder than necessary, because that's what really creates change. And then he gives a special award to the one student who really lived that idea. And of course, that student is Auggie.
In the end, though, the most powerful precept of all comes from Auggie himself. It's this beautiful, really profound thought that just captures the strength and the dignity inside every one of us. It's a reminder that we all overcome our own private worlds, and for that, every single one of us deserves a standing ovation.